Hello and a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining me, Influencers of Times, as we continue to bring you into the very heart of Britain's most fascinating, most notorious and well-known and most derelict and abandoned locations. A very warm welcome to you and thank you so much for coming back and for rejoining me in the first part of this very special two-part special edition live broadcasting in the series of Influencers of the Times. Put my teeth back in. Firstly, I'd like to welcome you back. Secondly, I'd like to welcome you to our 13th live episode of Influencers of the Times. And I'm very pleased to say that we are in our first location in the two-part live editions parts of this fascinating series. Now you can probably see that I'm currently standing in a very small woodland area. Now this woodland area, believe it or not, is where our first location lies, and in fact it's so hidden and obscured by these trees that you can't see it from anywhere. You can't see it from the road, you can't see it from the fields, and believe it or not, this location is so isolated and so derelict and abandoned and ruined that it's actually not only within a woodlands of itself, but it's also actually in the middle of a whole area of fields, of farmers' fields. So without further ado, I welcome you to our first location. I welcome you to Minsden Chapel in Hertfordshire. Now Minsden Chapel is situated just a very short distance away, which overlooks a small hamlet town called Chapelfoot, just near Preston in Hertfordshire. We're probably a couple of miles away from Hitchin, probably about 2 or 3 miles away. And as I mentioned earlier, this location is so isolated and so abandoned and derelict and ruined that it's shrouded and completely surrounded by its very own small woodland forest. And you can probably see by just looking behind me just how, not eerie, but just how silent and how still this place really is. And if I just move out the way, you can just see, while I've been talking to you, you can just see what it's like in here. Now this is the woods. Now we're going to walk to Minsden Chapel, and it's literally only a minute walk from here. In fact, it's just behind you. Now I just have to let you know that Minsden Chapel, not only is it abandoned and derelict, but it's also completely ruined, and in fact there's hardly anything much to see. There's only a couple of walls left and that's it. So there's not really a lot to see, but I just had to come here simply because Minsden Chapel is very well known, and it's notorious, or one of the most notorious locations in the Hertfordshire area. So thank you so much for tuning in and for watching and for joining me in this first part. So there you can see, when I just move out the way, you can just get an idea of the woods. And it's just totally, believe it or not, the chapel is just up there. But it's surrounded, and it's as you come to the bridleway that leads up to Minsden Chapel, this woods is literally a circular shape, and it's on top of a hill in a farmer's field. And it's not just in one field, as I said, the entire woods is completely surrounded not only by the countryside and other woods, but a huge massive area of fields that have just been freshly ploughed and turned over by the farmers. So this is almost like an island. The woods literally takes on like an island shape, like a circular shape. It's quite a big woods. It takes probably 5 minutes to walk from one end to the other, but it's a massive circular area, and the chapel is, I wouldn't say right in the centre, but it's kind of towards the rear, nearest to the field, so it's kind of off centre, so to speak. But you can just get an idea. And it really is, even though it's actually quite cold and there is a little bit of a breeze, it's just really still and quiet. Like I said, it's not eerie, it's nothing like the other places I've been. It's definitely nothing like Dudley Tunnel, but it has got, I wouldn't say a strange feeling, it's just got a very quiet, still feeling to it. And what's also another fascinating feature, about this location, this woods in particular, is absolutely, I've never seen so many pheasants in all my life. This whole woods is there's just pheasants everywhere. I mean, obviously that you can't hear or see them, but as you walk towards the edges of the woods, there's literally pheasants everywhere, and they just come from nowhere. They're feeding and hiding, and you literally walk through these woods really quietly, and they just literally come from all directions. They fly and they're running and everything, and I've literally never seen so many pheasants. It's quite interesting. Now, I know the farmer has placed, I'm not quite sure what they are, but they look like little feeding barrel things. So obviously the farmer feeds them, but they're just everywhere. It's not that they're just in here because they're feeding. They're just in here. Obviously they can get out. I mean, you can walk in and out of this woods, but they're just everywhere, and I've never seen so many pheasants. I mean, I'm looking at them now. There's literally pheasants. I can just see a couple over there. They're just roaming, and I'm not saying that they're only roaming this particular woods, but I've just never seen so many. Anyway, so let's go and have a look at Minsden Chapel. So Minsden Chapel, as I mentioned, it's one of the most well-known, most notorious locations in the Hertfordshire area. Now, Minsden Chapel was built in the 14th century, so that gives you an idea of how old it was. So it's several hundred years old. So I'll let you do the mathematics. So we're now in the 21st century, so we're talking about, we're going back, what, 500 years old? So I'll give you an idea. So it was built around the 14th century. Now, it doesn't say, and as I mentioned in my bulletin earlier on, about an hour ago, it doesn't actually say who built the chapel. It doesn't really give any dates. It doesn't really give a lot of information. It just simply says that this chapel was built in the 14th century. In the 17th century was when it became in a really bad state. So gradually from the 14th to the 17th century was when it gradually become quite, not so much demolished, but ruined. Now, Minsden Chapel itself hasn't been demolished by anybody. It's had no human interference by anyone. There's no other buildings in the area. There's no other signs of any, it wasn't manually demolished in any way. It's simply demolished through natural causes, through age, through weather conditions, and that's it. So in the space of a couple of hundred years, from the 14th to the 17th century, it gradually began to fall apart. Now, Minsden Chapel was particularly used for weddings, and believe it or not, right up until the 18th century, weddings were still held here. Now just bear with me, because what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to crouch under some branches, and then we'll go into Minsden Chapel. So bear with me. So you might have to have a look at the sky a little bit, or trees or something, and I'm just making sure I don't get stung in the face, because that would be a first on live broadcasting. Okay, so we're now walking from the woods just up to Minsden. Believe it or not, Minsden Chapel is literally just behind me, and if I turn the camera around, there it is, just there. And you can see just by looking at it that there isn't really a lot left. But let's go inside. I'll give you as much information as I can, and then we'll have a bit of a look about. So hopefully, and I can see it saying the connection's weak, but hopefully we're not going to lose signal altogether. So what we're going to do, oh, see, signal went then. We'll come back. Welcome back. that was a brief sort of a brief rest. So we've now just walked into the grounds of Minsden. I say it cut out again. So we're now standing directly in the middle of Minsden Chapel. So as I mentioned, it got demolished between the 14th to the 17th century, and up until then it was used for marriages and other ceremonial kind of events, so to speak. And even when Minsden Chapel became, I wouldn't say as demolished as it is today, but to a great extent it was demolished, weddings were still held here right up until the 18th century. And it was such a popular location, and even though there was no roof, even though a lot of the walls had demolished, there was an attraction to the sheer fact that Minsden Chapel is just so set in a quiet, tranquil area, and because it's surrounded by these beautiful woods, that it just continued to be a popular site for weddings. And in fact, during one particular wedding ceremony that took place, right up until the vows were nearly taken, a piece of the stonework, or a piece of the flint work, actually fell and knocked the hymn book out of one of the people who were standing here, who were taking this, who were actually not organising, but actually I can't remember what the name of the person was. He was to do with the ceremony itself, and this piece of flint actually knocked the hymn book out of his hands, and the wedding continued to carry on, so it didn't put them off at all. So we go right up until the 20th century, so we're talking about last century. A very well-known historian from London took because obviously the chapel itself continued to fall apart and kind of demolish within itself, so to speak, and it became, up until the 18th century, as I mentioned, that the weddings continued to take place, and then after that they actually stopped the weddings because it was becoming too dangerous, so they stopped the weddings. The historian, his name was Regine Hind, he took a particular interest in Minsden Chapel, and he actually lived in Hitchin, just a few miles away from here, and in fact he was so fascinated by Minsden Chapel that the priests nearby gave him permission to daily and frequently visit Minsden Chapel and not so much take ownership but play a huge part in the continuation, as it were, of looking after Minsden Chapel. Now sadly, this gentleman, because he lived in Hitchin, he actually was on the platform of Hitchin Station with a friend, and for no apparent reason, and even to this day reports suggest that they can't understand why this happened, but he actually stepped off the platform and was actually killed himself, committed suicide by stepping in front of one of the trains. And what they did is they actually laid his coffin, and what he actually requested before he died is that under no circumstances was he to be, his ashes or his coffin was to be taken anywhere else other than here. So he wanted to remain part of this grounds of Minsden Chapel even after he died. So what they did, they placed his coffin and his tombstone here, but they actually sprinkled his ashes at Hitchin Station. And to this day, suggestions and reports say that he now haunts Hitchin Station. However, his gravestone is here, so let's go and have a look at his gravestone, and then you can probably see the chapel behind me. We'll have a bit of a look about, but there really isn't a lot to see. However, I just had to come and give you a look about, and not only that, I did say that I would visit every possible abandoned location in Great Britain, and this is certainly one of them. So if I understand this is going to be backwards for you, but if I just tilt the camera, I don't know if you can see, if I spin this way, you can probably, and if I tilt the camera down, can you see just, you can't see, there. So you can see his headstone, and it reads, in memorial of Reginald Hind, historian, 1883 to 19... That's it. Sorry, the signal cut out again then. So what I've done is I've actually moved away from that particular area. So we're now back in the chapel grounds. So he, and it says, requested to delay in peace at this site. So that's his gravestone. I'm hoping you've got a chance to see it. Now don't worry too much. Obviously the signal keeps cutting out and we keep losing the signal, but as always I've taken lots of photographs of both inside and outside this location, including the gravestone, and as always they will be on my Facebook page along with my website www.camdronephotography.co.uk, and all the information, I'll say all the information, but the information that I've given you about Minsden Chapel again will be on my Facebook page and on my website. So, but I understand the signal keeps cutting out, but hopefully you got a quick glimpse of it. So that's where the well-known historian from Hitchin lays to rest there, but his ashes were sprinkled at Hitchin Station because obviously that's where he actually died. But yeah, he specifically requested that he wanted to be laid to rest in the grounds of Minsden Chapel. Now it's hard to believe that we're actually standing in the chapel itself. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the camera around, I'm going to spin it around for you. Like I said, there's not a lot to see, so you'll have to bear with me. Unfortunately, some abandoned and derelict places that I'm going to be broadcasting from, there isn't really going to be a lot to see. But I want to take you, as always, I want to take you to every single possible place that I can find in the whole of the United Kingdom. And it just seems a shame to miss places out like this just because there's nothing much to see. Because some of you may never have seen this place again, some of you may never actually get to see this place ever. But because it's falling apart so quickly, it's so important for me to bring you to these locations before they're gone forever. Because who knows, maybe in 10 years time, 20 years time, 50 years time, there may not even be this left. And I was here probably about a year or 2 years ago. It hasn't changed that much. However, the person who I'm with today has been here probably 3, maybe 4 years ago, maybe a little bit more recent than that. And they've said that it's changed slightly, so it really is falling apart very quickly. Now if I just show you, if I just do that to you, so you can see that's the largest, or one of the largest remaining walls left. Now I have no idea what that is, that hole. I don't know if that was, I don't know if it's just where the foundations have given away. I don't know if there was a particular reason for that. I don't know if that was a window. It seems too low to be a window, but obviously you don't know. But I don't know if that's meant to be there, or if that's just through sheer the fact that the foundations are just giving way. I don't know. You've got little holes. Now I don't know what these are. I don't know what these little holes are for. There's a number of them in the walls of Minsden Chapel, and you can actually look straight through them, so there was a reason and a purpose. Now they could be small I mean they're too small to be windows, so they could just be simply ventilation holes. They could well be, but there's a number of them in in probably about 3 or 4 of the walls here. But you can see just by looking at that wall that there's quite a few of them there. That, believe it or not, would have been just there. That, believe it or not, would have been the tower. Now there was, I believe, a tower here, and bells were actually hanging from the tower of Minsden Chapel, and they were actually stolen. Now it doesn't give much information as to when or who by or anything else, but there was more than one bell hanging, because obviously there were wedding ceremonies here, so there would have been more than one bell. I believe there was reports suggest there were 2 or 3, and they were stolen. They were stolen by some smugglers who were actually travelling from Hitchin to St Albans, and on the way, horse and cart, they came at night and stole the bells. Not only was this used for weddings, but this was also used as a I don't know how to describe it to you. Almost like a I don't know if snug is the right word to use. A place where people would come and rest. So people would frequently visit Minsden Chapel. Back in the 14th century, 15th, 16th century, they would frequently visit Minsden Chapel on their way from the surrounding areas. You've got Hitchin, Letchworth, and as they were passing through this way to go to St Albans, they would seek refuge, or they would rest at Minsden Chapel. It's just so hard to believe that we're standing in a chapel, and as you can see, there's no roof, and you might just be able to hear air traffic in the distance. Now believe it or not, we're only a couple of miles away from Luton Airport, so you can probably hear the planes passing nearby. But that's kind of what that is. So that's one of the largest walls there. As we come around, now if I look, can you see? I'll just put it this way. What I'll do is I'll just bring it around this way so you can see a bit better. Can you see behind me? So you've got a massive hole there. Now, believe it or not, that would have been a doorway. Judging by what the artist's impression of what Minsden Chapel looked like in the 18th century, and what I will do is, along with all my photographs, I will put that drawing, that particular pastel colour drawing, on Facebook and on my website as well, so you can get an idea of what it would have looked like. That, believe it or not, would have been one of the main entrances into the chapel, and you can see how it's just been eaten away. Now this entire foundation, the whole of Minsden Chapel, is made of flint, so that gives you an idea of not only the age but why this is demolishing and falling apart and collapsing so frequently. It can literally literally just made of flint, huge pieces of flint, and obviously the concrete or whatever they used to kind of cement it together. But there's no brickwork here, there's bits of concrete, but all the walls, all the foundations are made of flint. It's just all flint. But yeah, so you can see you've got a massive, now believe it or not, a stained glass window would have been in there, and you can kind of get an idea of the shape. Can you see it would have gone that way? So that would have been where one of the huge, beautiful stained glass windows would have been. So then you've got your doorway. So we've got the big wall behind us, which is there, which is where the tower would have been. Almost like a church tower would have been. Not necessarily up. Sorry, get my bearings. Not necessarily that, but it would have been in this part. So that would have been the side wall, and that, believe it or not, would have been the rear end. So the main entrance or doorway could have been down there, and you can see what's left. One of the corners of the wall, so that's one corner, and the other corner is hidden just behind them trees. So it's a rectangular shape. And believe it or not, that is all that's left of Minsden Chapel. That's how ruined and demolished the place is. But let's have a little bit more of a look about, because I don't really just want it to be just that. Although there isn't really much else to show you, I do want to kind of show you around a bit more. So, but you can see if I turn the camera this way, if I come this way, can you see what I mean about little kind of ventilation holes? They do look like just little ventilation holes, but you can see the flint. It's literally just all bits of flint, and it's literally crumbling. You can see how easy it is to flake it away, and it's literally just falling apart. But you've got these beautiful pieces of flint. Literally, that's all it's made of, is just flint, all of it. I mean, that's what's left of one of the walls, is just that. That's literally all that's left. It's just such a shame that places like this are just crumbling away. And if I turn the camera this way, you can see what's left of the corner. So that would have been the front wall. So you've got the doorway here, so you would have entered this way. So if I pan it, so you can see here, that's where the doorway would have been. So you would have had a great big arch or doorway there. So this would have been one wall, just here, and then you can see that's the corner, and then the other section would have come across this way. But you can see now it's completely collapsed, and there may have been another window there, and it's collapsed, and then you've got part of a wall, and then again you've got the massive collapsed wall there, which would have connected the back wall, and then the biggest part is this wall here, and then you've got a massive huge gap in them trees. You can see it's just an open gap where another window would have been. I think there was probably two huge, beautiful, kind of almost art-shaped kind of stained glass windows. So another one would have been there, and then you've got the corner, another corner wall there, what's left of it. And that is basically all that's left of Minsden Chapel. Now there is a little bit more. This bit here, believe it or not, even though I'm standing right where the main entrance to the chapel would have been, there was kind of like a little, what do you call it? You know, sometimes you get like the main entrance into a church or a chapel, but you get that kind of little entrancey bit first. So you've got like the little kind of, you go in, you've got like a little kind of seating area, or like a little kind of entrance before you're going into the main entrance, the main body of the chapel. So this bit here, believe it or not, of what's left of it would have been where that would have been. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, just through them trees, can you see just there is what's left of that. The tip of my finger, and it just runs down to there. That's all that's left. One wall, just one pillar of like the main, the first entrancey bit you would have come in. and then you will walk through, and now I'm currently standing right in the main kind of entrancey bit. See it? So that would have been going into, you can see it now, look, going into the main chapel. So that would have been it. So there you go, Minsden Chapel. Probably, I don't know about, I suppose in a way it is. This is probably the most derelict, most abandoned, ruined location that I've ever broadcast from. And even though Sandwell Priory is completely, there's just, as you know, if you've seen the live broadcast, you would know anyway. Even though Sandwell Priory, there's nothing left apart from the outlines, the walls, and maybe a couple of bits of wall. This is probably the most ruined, abandoned, in the sense that it's just so overgrown. And if I just tilt the camera, you can see the size of the trees that are now growing. And it's because, not only because of natural causes, weather conditions, but it's also the roots from trees like that that are growing underneath Minsden Chapel that are dislodging the foundations in which this chapel stands, and that's also causing the walls to give way. But you can just see how big some of these trees are. Now those trees have been there, I would imagine, probably since the start, so they've been here a long time, but naturally the roots are going to go underneath, and in fact, I can't really show you, I was just going to say, you can see how some of the trees are actually growing almost on the wall itself. So they're actually growing right along the foundation of the walls. And it's just such a shame, it's just in such a bad way. There's no way that you could do anything with this place. There's nothing you can do. You can't renovate it, but you could renovate it, I suppose, but you can't salvage it. It's just beyond salvation. And it's a real shame, because I'm sure in its time, in its heyday, Minsden Chapel would have been a beautiful place, and judging by the artist's impression of how it looked in the 18th century, it really looked a beautiful place. And it's just, I just wish there was more I could show you. I wish I could show you more, but there isn't anything more I can show you. I think what we might do is just walk back through the chapel, and I'll take you through the archway, and we'll just have a look around the back so you can see the back wall. And what I'd like to do is give you an idea of just how isolated this chapel is, and then we'll finish, because unfortunately there is no more information I can give you. The information I've given you is all there is about Minsden Chapel. There's nothing else. And as I've said before, sometimes it's really frustrating when I can't give you more information than I'd like to, because I always want to try and make these as fascinating and as interesting for you as possible, not just by showing you, but by telling you. And unfortunately there's no point in me just making up stuff, because then I'm not giving you the right information. So we're just walking through, so we've just walked out of the chapel, through the main archway, and you can see what I mean about flint. It's literally just made solely of flint. Loads and loads and loads of tightly knit pieces of flint, all different shapes, all stacked and then concreted together. But you can see what I mean about the ruins. You can see how it goes all the way there. Like I said, the archway. Oh, sorry, connection's weak again. And that, can you see what I mean about some of the trees? How big some of the trees are, growing right next to it. And you can see how we've got a massive gap, that big gap that we were looking at just here. So what we'll do is we'll just come around the other side, and then we're going to finish, because there's not really much else I can do, I'm afraid. So you've got the wall, so that's the big wall that we were looking at. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you along here, because I just want to show you what it's like outside this chapel. It's okay. Oh, I heard a noise. It's okay, it's just a pheasant making that clucky noise, and it's now running away. There's pheasants everywhere. So you can see what I mean about this hole? So I don't know, I think it might have just, I mean, it could well have been a window. I mean, there's some quite flat stones there, so maybe that was a window of some kind, like a small kind of window. But you can see how we've got those gaps in the walls as you go up higher and higher. So let's go around this way. So we're now around the back of Minsden Chapel. and then we'll go just here. And what I'm going to do, so you can't just see it, but if I turn the camera this way, can you see what I mean about being completely surrounded by fields? See that? It's literally in the middle of fields. Just totally surrounded. And it's literally like that all around it. There's just, like I said, it's just like an island in the middle of, on a hill, in the middle of fields, in the middle of nowhere. But it's I mean, it's so quiet out here, but in a nice way, not in a scary, eerie way. But I would like to be here at night time. I don't think I'd like to be out here at night time. I have to say, I don't think I'd like that. Purely because of the trees and everything else. But it has got a nice, quiet kind of atmosphere to it. And I can understand, sorry, probably what I'm doing, just put my hands in the wall, because sometimes I find, sometimes I like to just put my hands on places that I visit. Not because I'm particularly looking for anything, but sometimes it's just nice to just kind of, I don't know, to think of the history, to think of time that's passed, to think of the marriages that have taken place, the people who have married in this chapel. It is fascinating, even though there's not much to see, it's still fascinating. So there we go. Minsden Chapel. Let's go back around the other side and then we're going to finish. That'll be it. Like I said, there's nothing else I can do, and believe it or not, it's actually starting to get dark already. So let's go back through the woods. I think my guest is waiting for me. Yeah. It's my sister with me today. Bless her. She's waiting in the trees. So it's nice to have some company for a change. But yes, my sister's here today. She wanted to come with me on one of my live broadcasts, so bless her heart, she's just waiting through the trees there, and then we're going to pack up and call it a day, I think, because it's getting quite chilly. Like I said, it's getting a bit dark. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate your time, your patience, and as always, your lovely comments and all your likes. I can see people liking, can see people saying hi and everything. Thank you so much once again for all your likes and comments, for all your positive comments, for your encouragement. It just means so much to me. So thank you as always for watching. I'm so sorry if once again this broadcast hasn't been very interesting. I'm sorry if it's not been very interactive. I'm sorry if there's not really a lot for you to see. However, it's so important for me to bring you to every single possible derelict and abandoned location that I could think of, that I can not only find but that I can think of, because I really do want to cover every single, and I mean every single, and we're going to be travelling, I'm going to be taking you to every single derelict and abandoned location in Great Britain, all over. I'm going to be taking to every single place, taking lots of photographs, as I've already mentioned in my bulletin earlier today. I'll be taking lots of photographs and broadcasting from every single possible location that I can, so that I can bring you to Britain's most abandoned and derelict places, and however short, however little information there is, or however much, I want to be able to not only show you the places but give you the information behind them. But there are just some locations that really just don't have, for whatever reason, just don't have a lot of information to give. But I will put the information that I've told you today on my Facebook or on my website page. Now stay tuned, because weather permitting, hopefully, if it doesn't rain tomorrow, although it was raining yesterday and it did actually rain through the night, but luckily it stayed dry. Weather permitting, stay tuned. Tomorrow, as promised, will be the second part, will be part 2 of this very special edition of Influences of the Times. Now tomorrow will be from our next location. I'm not going to say when or where, because I'll mention that I'll obviously broadcast tomorrow, but if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, you'll probably remember that I mentioned we would be visiting another location back to back to this one. So tomorrow we will be at a new location. Just to give you a rough idea, we're going to be in Bedfordshire, so we're going to be out of Hertfordshire and we're going to be in the Bedfordshire area at our next location. and hopefully, weather permitting, I'll be able to broadcast to you. As always, I will take lots of photographs and I will do as much research as I possibly can about this next location. So stay tuned. Join me again tomorrow. I can't say specifically what time. It could roughly be this time of day again, or it could be a different time. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. But anyway, stay tuned. Join me tomorrow for part 2 of Influence of the Times, this very special edition, this very special back-to-back edition of Influence of the Times, in this fascinating series that I'm going to be doing for, the way things are going, a long time from now. So it will be episode 14 tomorrow. Stay tuned anyway, because next week I will be doing another 2 or possibly 3 episodes. This Saturday coming, I'm going to be doing another live episode, so it will be episode 15 from a fascinating abandoned and derelict mansion in the Cambridgeshire area. So I will be there on Saturday. Next week I will be doing an episode from a location back in Birmingham. So I'll be back at our base in Birmingham the weekend. So next week I'll be doing 2 live broadcasts. One will be from a abandoned and derelict pub, and I'll be doing a live broadcast from there, and then I will be doing another broadcast after that, not on the same day, but during the same week I will be doing another broadcast from another location in Birmingham or near Birmingham. As I said, I'm not going to give any clues. I'm not going to say what they are or what they're going to be, but hopefully you'll join me for these next 2, 3 or 4 live episodes that I'm going to be doing in the next week and a half. Now, just before I finish, Influence of the Times has been running for a couple of months now, probably 3 or 4 months. I'm very pleased to say, and hopefully you're going to find it interesting as well, or should I say better for you. After lots of hard work, I've managed to upgrade the equipment that we're using. Now, you're probably aware that at the moment I'm just using a tripod and my mobile phone. As I mentioned, through lots of hard work, I've managed to upgrade the equipment that we're going to be using. So hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, our broadcasts, or should I say my broadcasts to you, are going to be much more better for yourselves. By that I mean we're going to be broadcasting and streaming live from a brand new tripod, but I'm also going to be using a camcorder. I've managed to get a really nice camcorder which will stream and broadcast in full HD, so hopefully the picture quality will be better for you. It will be broadcasted in Dolby Digital sound, so obviously the sound will be a lot better, and I'll also have a widescreen lens attached to the actual camcorder, so hopefully you will see things in wide full screen, which will make your viewing a lot better. So not only the picture quality, the sound quality, but also the actual vision that you're going to see will be a lot better, so you won't be quite so restricted by what you're seeing at the moment through my mobile phone. So it'll be in widescreen or full screen, so it'll be a much better quality broadcast to you. So not only that, I will not only be broadcasting live on Facebook, but naturally Influence of the Times wants to get a lot bigger. Now, we've already got our own channel on YouTube. However, there aren't any videos on there just at the moment, because obviously I wanted to get the equipment first. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks or months, we will not only be broadcasting and streaming live on Facebook, but we will also be broadcasting live on our brand new channel on YouTube. Now, the way things work, I'm not going to be able to broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. The only way around it will be I'll either have to do one or the other, or I'll have to do 2 live broadcasts from the same place. However, that's going to be time consuming. So what I will most probably do is I will put notifications on my Facebook to let you know whether I'm going to be streaming or broadcasting on Facebook or YouTube. So you'll be able to watch the broadcast either on one or the other. However, to make it a little bit more interesting, I think what I might do is put certain broadcasts and live broadcasts on YouTube other than just Facebook, because obviously I want to try and reach as many people as I can. So look out for that brand new channel on YouTube. It's already up and running, there's just no videos on there just at the moment. So things are looking up, things are going to get a lot better for you guys. You're going to have a much better vision, or should I say audio and sort of visual experience, so to speak. The picture quality and the sound is going to be a lot better. So that's coming in the next couple of weeks. I'm just waiting for one piece of equipment that I need, and then we can start using the camcorder. On top of that, it means that you won't see things back to front. When I do a live broadcast, Facebook turns everything backwards, so even though you can see the board behind me, which is correct obviously, things to my right are on your left and things on your left are on my right. So when I point to something, it's the opposite side to what it actually is to you. So if I'm pointing to something to my right, you're seeing me pointing to my left. In real life, it is on my right. When we use the camcorder, we won't have that. So you will see things exactly as they should be, the right way around, not inverted or anything else. They'll be the right way around, which will be far less confusing for you and for me, because it means I'll be pointing the right direction, so to speak. So it'll be a lot better viewing for both yourselves, and it will make it certainly a lot easier for me. Anyway, thank you as always for watching, for tuning in. Join me tomorrow as we will be at our next location in the Bedfordshire countryside, and until then, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm now going to get nice and warm, have a cup of tea, and I shall hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys. You take care of yourselves. Thank you for joining me, Influencers Times, as we continue to bring you into Britain's most abandoned and derelict places. So from me and from Minsden Chapel, until tomorrow, you take care. God bless. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.